Yo, this is the Cathedral of Saint Michael and Saint Gudule, how she's called today. We are in the city of Brussels in Belgium. Here we have a first intriguing detail. The balustrade is heavily eroded and it has already a lean angle. How you can see from this perspective, it was renewed with this cast concrete in front of the two tower side. It is the erosion, or the question is this the erosion that appears after several hundred years since the construction was supposedly finished? I don't know. We can give anything on the dates that we were given. I was accompanied by my fellow Thomas, who's also very fascinated in the questions raised by the Incredibles of the past. The structures below us, the basement wall, if you will, so is also heavily eroded. And later we can see that there was a Roman church under this church, or the remains of what we today call Roman. And in future videos we will solve the mystery which culture signs responsible for all of that stuff. I will give you some footage of the surreal, detailed and amazing ornamentation and the ultra-realistic statues. So now we are in front of the cathedral. It is astonishing. If you are by yourself in the front and see all the absolutely unbelievable stonework, it stuns you. Let's have this detailed look. Also the glasswork. All these artistic glasswork. Incredible. Now we are 50 to 80 meters in front of the Cathedral, St. Michael and St. Gudule. I don't know how I can spell it in English, but it is really impressive. Such a beauty that we have here. And I've really enjoyed this trip with Thomas. The towers, the two towers in front of the building raise up to a height of 69 meters each. And it was not possible to go upstairs to the top of the towers. It was not possible. It was not permitted. I haven't seen any possibility to get up. And yes, on the other side of the cathedral we have also the renewal balustrade. Maybe because the plateau is much higher in front of the cathedral and the old structure was too insecure, so they've decided to renew it in order to make it more safe. I'm totally blown away by the timeless and artful style in which the building is decorated. On our first trip to Brussels, Thomas and I had first explored the structure. Supposedly, there was a predecessor church from the Carolingian period of the 9th century. We know through the books of Wilhelm Kammeier and Heribert Illig from the first half of the 20th century that there was no Carolingian period. Most of the Middle Age periods are artificial constructions of the Catholic Church made in the 16th century. Wikipedia tells us that the structure was built over several hundred years, but if so, the main question is, why does it look as it is if from one cast? It is more than obvious that this structure was exactly planned as it appears today. No different architects or responsibles over a period of centuries. It's one and the same handicraft, and to say, as the Vatican scriptors, writers and fakers do, that the towers were built 200 years later is obvious nonsense. They look exactly crafted as the rest of the building. At the moment, I read the book of Heribert Illig, who delivers tons of evidence of a fabricated and completely artificial designed Middle Age. He is a brilliant author who delivers detailed views of who, how, and when the events and the characters were faked. If you delete the faked written literature of the Catholic Renaissance humanism and compare it with the real architectural and archaeological evidence that is given by these structures, then you begin to realize the vastness of this lie, maybe the biggest lie in history. He is a middle-aged researcher, Heribert Illig, who can prove, in my opinion, that at least the Carolingian era was completely faked, maybe even the Ottomanian period which followed. And this cathedral was not built in 300 years. It is from one cast, and I cannot see any structural defects or issues. Even if I have stepped through the building and have filmed it for more than 1 hour, I can't see any issues or scratches or problems or static issues. There's nothing. It stands like it would stand for the next 500 years without any problems. Here we can see some cheap work made in the past century to provide light or an alarm system crudely made with cheapest effort. They didn't even make effort to blend it in with astonishing work of the old world. And maybe they've placed this wooden wardrobe in front of us, in front of the stonework, just because or in order to hide their incompetence or incapability. I don't know. Under the church, we have, according to this info plate, a Roman predecessing church. For €1, you can visit it. Short time before World War II, they found the old structure below, it says. Let's have a look. And this is how it looks beneath the floor of the church, a supposedly Roman predecessing church. And we're not that deep, just 3 to 4 meters deeper than ground level. And here they have installed a mirror, all of the width of it, just to show how deep it was going. And you can see this room, it is not accessible. You can just visit it from this perspective. And here we can see this wall was once a wall completely connected, and they have cut it off in order you can pass it. So the faces of the wall are completely smooth. They have cut it off. The wall was in ancient times 3 meters at least wide, and this is how it looks from above. It is a strange structure, as they have casted stone and a concrete-like stuff all together really, really not what I have expected, how they have built walls at that time period. It's really a strange thing. And here on this picture you can see the St. Michael's Church without floor. They told us that the floor was made later. And you can see the place we are now in without the floor of the cathedral itself. So that picture was taken in the 1960s, I guess. And now we are facing the Royal Palace of Brussels. I propose to Google images to search some pictures of the interior. It is totally exaggerated, artful work in the interior. To believe that the culture without gas, light, running water, electric machinery and industrial capabilities to purchase goods and materials is the cognitive dissonance between what was possible at that time period and what they've achieved. We have the hard facts that the griffin was once on the flag of the Slavic culture, today known as Tartarian, and that the flag of the Russian Federation shows a knight on a horse and the horse holds its hoof on the griffin. But what is about the German culture that must have been there before 1500 years? The Germans were rude and animalic wilds living in the woods, and the highly sophisticated culture of the so-called Romans wasn't capable to pass the Rhine River. Or was there a brotherhood between the Germans and the Tartarians that worked together for 1,000 years during the period of the supposed Middle Age that was led by the humanism Catholic liars? And this culture was also responsible for the so-called Greco-Roman structures in whole Eurasia and even America. Would that not be perhaps an explanation? We will see some of the evidence that leads me to this thesis in future videos. Now we are in front of the Palace of Justice in Brussels, and you'll get nothing else than goosebumps when you stand in front of it and realize the sheer mass of this beautiful structure. 26,000 square meters space area or floor space of nothing else than Greco-Roman overkill. There are 24 of these winged lions on the roofs, and each of them weighs for sure several tons. It is absolutely astonishing. I mean, you have to see that there is a dome in a height of 104 to 160 meters, that depends on the source you ask. Supposedly the dome was rebuilt after a fire in World War II. I don't know, let's have a look in the interior of the building, because words cannot explain what you can see here. The main entrance has a height of round about 30 meters, and we can see thousands of swastikas all over the structure. We can see the symbols of the Illuminati, of the WHO, and here it seems to be that there was an inscription which isn't there yet. Just imagine the amount of gravel that is necessary to be compressed to hold a building like this over centuries. Just the fact that you are in need to prepare a plain site with millions of tons of compressed gravel just to be sure that the amount of stonework can be carried reliable over centuries. A culture who is not capable to guarantee that there is enough glass, stone, gravel, water, food and other supply on demand didn't even start to plan a vast and complex structure like this. It is stupid to think so. And there we have also the fascia. In this building, you can see all the today's so-called Freemason symbols, and there is an explanation why the Freemasons must had adopt the symbols of the old world of earlier times, because they have re-established the buildings that were empty, that were gone. They have captured the structures and buildings that were lost by the civilization that has been gone. The civilization that was destroyed by a vast cataclysmic event round about before 500 years. And I think there were several cataclysmic events in the past 500 years. There was the War of 30 Years in the early 1600s. There was the Napoleon War in the early 1800s, which leads to the empty cities, who are clearly visible in the photographies of the 1850s and 60s. And then we had also the two little resets of World War I and II in the 20th century. So it was a destruction of the old world within these past 400 years, my opinion. Now we're going in, and you have to pass a security check as you do on the airport. You have to met your backpack on an X-ray device. For sure, this is the Ministry of Justice of Belgium, and also there are courts where peoples get punished by the system for their supposedly misbehavior. Only on Mondays it is free accessible for tourists. From my point of view, it is completely unbelievable that the city of Brussels was in need of a justice building with 60 halls in the 1860s. The population of Brussels at that time was round about 50,000 people according to official narrative. So never ever necessary to have something like this. And here we can see on side of this building that there is a level perhaps below ground level. It is completely weathered, and the authorities give a damn shit about the condition in which the structure remains. Weeds overgrow the whole basement, and nobody seems to want to have it in a proper condition. They don't seem to be able to take care of this cultural monument. Never mind that you are permitted to enter the basement that obviously exists. Now we are on the Ferris wheel that stands several weeks each year in front of the structure just to get some footage from another perspective. We have a really impressive view over the city of Brussels, which is quite a metropolis. Sadly, we have the sun against us, but I hope we get nevertheless some spectacular footage for you. My friend Thomas and I were really frightened by the moving gondolas and the height of the Ferris wheel. The scaffolding you see all around the building is now standing for decades because the maintenance of this structure is a lifetime job that never ends and costs millions over millions of euros. The pillars in the tower are not smaller or less wider than the ones on ground level, and there are entrances to the top which are not accessible nowadays or prohibited for tourists. And as if this would not enough, they placed 4 more than 10-meter high statues around the dome. Imagine that they've brought all the tons of materials in that height without electric light, electricity, running water, electric machinery or something else. I mean, even today, that would be an effort which would challenging the biggest construction companies in this world. They tell us that it has taken less than 10 years to build this. Even today, 10 years would be not a long period to get the job done. I would love to know if there was a whole floor under the ground level of the main entrance, because you can see clearly an ancient entrance from behind and the right side of the building. But prohibited today, yes. We know from our research that lots of these structures are partially buried and were never completely digged out by the authorities. So what can we learn by our research is for sure that evolution is not a stairway to heaven. Rather, we had higher capabilities at the end of the past cycle, and that the evolution is interrupted, and the realm and the sun provide other frequencies in which we are not capable as we were at the end of the cycle before. And if we take the architecture from the past, we can read it out of it more than we can read it out of the literature, perhaps. Sometimes I believe that the symphonies by the great Beethoven, Mozart, Bach and Fauré are... All of us poses the questions why just few people of the population can see what we can see. It is the same situation as 2020 when C began to dictate the new narrative. Why there were so few people who decided to take action. Why there were the same ones who nowadays begin to recognize the truth. Why there were cleaning ladies and craftsmen who can recognize the truth, even if there were engineers and medicines who were not capable of seeing the truth. Knowledge and intelligence have nothing to do with each other. Someone who is well educated by the system must not have mandatory the capability of knowing something besides his subject area, and somebody who is not educated by faculty can nevertheless be pretty acknowledged. Actual wisdom results from a union of 33% of stomach, heart, and brain. And even if you're not that intelligent, when the distribution of 33% of these organs is balanced, so would the C virus be recognized and refused within days. And exactly as this, it behaves in any other part of research. Most of the academic scholars rest on the point that viruses are the transmitters of illness. If it is just a detoxification process based on the Greek word virus and just a symptom of a disease, like Andrew Kaufman or Dr. Stefan Lanka says. It is very difficult for most of the academics, even if it is very easy to see, and as it is now a field of research. Why not decover most of the scriptures before the 1600s as a lie? Finally, every war of the past 150 years is also exposed as a lie. With these words I release you. I'm connected to you and our heart stays strong, because we will have to pass really difficult times, but we will gather together. Thanks.